Hi, in this video we're going to walk through the process of building what I'm calling the Uber helper. Now, as you're building an app, there could be elements of your application that could be complex or confusing. And a good thing to do is to give your user some help and guidance around how to actually complete the task, fill out the form, or follow some kind of process. So what I've put together and what we're going to build today is a helper pop-up or a helper dialogue, helper modal, whatever you want to call it. This thing is designed to help. But I decided not to take it there, not to leave it there, sorry. So what if we could create a helper component that could offer either video help or text help in a single component? And that's what we're going to walk through today. So at the moment you're seeing this in text mode. Now, if we select the component and change one of the properties to true and then play the video, this time we have video, which could be really useful. So if you think about the variety of users and the way people need help, sometimes if you want to explain how to complete something in a video, then you know what this dialogue can help you. So without further ado, let's crack on. I have a new app, and what we're going to do is we're going to go into the components of the app. Now, one of the things that I decided to do with this component was make the size of it dynamic. So if it was in text, it would be more, the size of it would be more optimal for text. And if it's video, then it would be more of a rectangular size, something that you're used to for videos and so on and so forth. So what we need to do in order to achieve that is essentially create some custom properties. So I've created the component here. I'm going to rename the component to be called the Uber helper. And what we'll do is we'll set a custom input property. And the property will be we'll call it video mode. It'll be an input, and this is going to be a Boolean, so it'll either be true or it will be false. It'll be one or the other. And what we're doing with the width of the actual, the width and the height actually of our component. So we select the component here. We go down to the width. Let this come up. It's running quite poorly today. We're going to put an if this then that type of statement. So we're going to put if the Uber helper dot video mode. If that's true, well, we'll set the width to be 750 pixels. If it's false, then it's going to be in its text mode. We'll set it to 500 pixels, and we'll call it there. Okay, now for the height, so we can change the height. We'll select the height property, and we'll add in pretty much the same thing. So if this then that, if the Uber helper is in video mode, then we'll make it 350 pixels wide. And if it isn't, it's in text mode, we'll make it 500 pixels wide. Okay, so now we have kind of like a dynamic, or the ability to change the size of our dialogue. The next thing we need to do is add in some more properties. So we need, so if it is in video mode, we're going to need the URL of the video. So we'll put that in here. So we'll do video URL. That is going to be an input property, and it will be a text property, which is fine. Then we're going to have the title. So if you recall, our dialogue had a banner at the top where we had the title of the help topic. So let's call this helper title. That's going to be text. We have some intro text, and again, if we just bring the demo back, let's bring the demo back just to walk through what we're actually building here. Let's change it back to text mode. So here's the title of the helper, and this is going to be the main heading. This is what the help is about. Here's the ability for us to add some intro text, and here will be the actual text that explains what you need to do. So those are the properties we're creating over here. So we've got the title, we've got the header or the intro text. So we'll call this the helper intro text. That's going to be text as well. And we'll have the actual instructions, the guided instructions. So let's call this, we'll just call this helper text. I'm sure you could probably think of better names. Now, the other thing we need is, because we're going to, the state of this component could change from outside of the component, or it can change in two ways, from inside and from outside the component. And by that, I'm referring to the close button. So we're going to need an output property here to display, display or hide the dialog. So what we'll call this helper visibility, a word, something I always struggled to complete. And this is going to be a Boolean, so it's going to be true or false, and that will be used on the visibility property of the component. Okay, so let's go through. So we've got video mode. What's the default setting there? That's set to true. So let's set that to false, because this way we can ensure that our interface is going to look nice and scale across those two different sizes. So first things first, we'll add in a header. So let's go to the plus icon, add in a rectangle, drag that up here. We'll make it, I don't know, 60 odd pixels high, be about right. And then for the width, because that could be one of two things, what we'll do is we'll just set this to be the Uber helper dot width. He says, yeah. So that will change regardless of the mode of this dialog, and we'll change the fill color. So let's change it to some kind of I don't know. I always seem to go for grey, so let's just stick with grey. I don't know why. And we'll also make the background slightly grey. I feel like I'm the master of grey. Now, so we've got our header. The first thing we need to do is put in our helper title. So if we go to insert label, there's our label. Let's drag that there. And again, the width is going to be pretty important here, purely because it could be one of two widths. So what we'll do is two things. Instead of it saying text, we want it to say whatever has been added as the property. Why is this not running? Uber helper dot helper title. So that's what the text will display. We'll add in some padding on the left. Let's make that 20 pixels, so it's a little bit off the edge. And we'll increase the font size and weight so that it looks a little bit more like a title. So let's make it 17 pixels, and we'll make it semi-bold, and we'll go with the Sago font. So the next thing we need to do is make it the full width minus a little bit, because we need room to add in our close icon. Okay, so we'll go to the width property. We'll set that to be the full width. So let's call this Uber helper dot. Oh yeah, he's running slowly today. There you go. Uber helper dot width uberhelper.width, sorry about this, and then we'll shave off 100 pixels because that should give us enough room to add in, it gives plenty of room for the title, and it gives us a little bit of room to add in our close icon over here. And that's what we'll add in next. So we'll add in an icon. It'll be the cancel icon. That's always a good one to indicate that we want to close the dialog. Let's change the size. 64 is too big. We'll make it about half the size and half the width. The height and width, sorry. We'll move it somewhere in the middle. That is about right. And we'll change the color to black. And we'll leave it there for now. We'll make this do something shortly. So now we've got our header. So let's rename the three controls just so that we close component. And remember our naming convention. So we're going to use Hungarian notation here. So we have a prefix for the control type. So LBL is a label. And this is the header title. So it's nice and easy for me to see in the tree view what in the tree view is whereabouts that is on the screen. And this is the shape. So SHP header PG for background. And because they're all related to the same function, and we're going to have more objects on this screen, I'm going to group these together. And I'm going to call the group header when it catches up with me. So let's rename, call this GRP component, never type that word, component header. Wonderful. So the next thing we need, we have the intro text and the actual text. So we need a couple more labels. So we'll add the intro text here. And again, we'll set the width to be the full width of the control. So uberhelper.width. We'll put the padding to be 20 pixels, which is what we had up here. And we'll increase the font size a little bit because it's the intro text. It's not the main heading. We'll change the font type if this can keep up with me. Having trouble with my internet today. So that's 15 and it looks way bigger. And that's 17. Okay. Right, so there's the header. Now at the moment the text will just say text, so we're going to change that and we're going to connect the value, the text value or the property to uberhelper's intro text. Alright, so at the moment it's going to say text if it catches up with me. There we go, helper intro text. So we'll quickly rename this LBL helper intro text. Excellent. And the next thing we need is the actual instruction. So what is it that you're trying to tell your user to do? I mean, really, we should be setting the height of this to be dynamic as well, because you might only have a small amount of text, or you might have actually more. So that's something we can probably come back and do later in the video. But for now, let's just press ahead. So we'll set the width to be uberhelper's width. And because we don't know how much text we're going to pass on to the application user, we're going to set the auto height to be true, so that it will automatically manage its height. So really we should be taking whatever the measurement in pixels is from the top of this control to the top of the component. Then we should take whatever the height of this is and add on a bit as being the dynamic height of our component. So it's something for us to think about shortly. Okay, so this will be size 13. We'll make it a different color just because I don't know why we need to for the demo, but just because we can, I guess. Okay, and there's the text. So let's rename this. So LBL helper text. And again, these two objects are related, so we'll group those. Again, this is just a best practice. It's something that's kind of become habit for me, and we'll call this text mode. Okay, so we have the header, text mode, and now we need to add in video mode. And we don't want to show text mode when we're in video mode. So because we've grouped this, we can go to the visibility property, and instead of it being true, we can say if, we do an if this then that. So if Uber helper dot video mode, so if that's true, then we're going to hide this group, and if it isn't true, then we're going to show it. All right, so at the moment it's not in video mode, and we need to do something about that. You see it's false, so that's in text mode essentially. So let's change that to be true. And we should be seeing, there you go. So now what you've seen is the width of our dialogue, our component has changed. You know, it's actually much wider. The text has been hidden. The text, the title bar, sorry, is the right width. But this guy here, well, he shouldn't be there. He should be all the way over here now. So what we need to do there is change its x coordinate. Yes, its x coordinates value. So let's go to the x value of it and figure out how to change that. So one thing that we know is the label width here changes, right? So that's a value we could use. So what we'll do is we'll make that relative. Now with relative positioning, what we're going to do is we're going to take the width of this label, add a little bit on, and that is going to be where the close button lives. So at the moment it's an absolute position. It's 455 pixels from the left hand side, and it will always be 455 because it's absolute. So what we want to do here is relate it to this header here. So we'll do LBL header title dot width, and then so now it's right at the end. That's a little bit too close for me, and I'm going to add on, I'm going to guess at about 60 pixels. That's not bad, is it? Let's try 50. That's 55. There you go. Look at that. Perfect. So its position, its x position is the width of this thing plus 55 pixels. So that's always going to put it there. So if we now change video mode back to false, it should be more or less in the same position. Give that a second to, there you go. So it's still exactly where we want it. The text is now visible. Set this to true so that we're in video mode, and we should see the component expand and the position is still changed. Okay, now we need, and I feel like this needs to be much bigger actually. That doesn't seem big enough for a video control. So let's add in a video control, and we're going to make that the full size. So let's give ourselves a bit more height. So if you remember, we said it should be 350 pixels. Well, I think that's not enough. I'm going to say 450. Seems to be a more sensible amount for a video. Even then, it's not quite enough. Okay, so well, let's go with that for now. Now it's wired up to the sample video, which is fine, but in our component we have a video URL. So what we're going to do there is we are going to grab the URL I have one in another screen. And we're going to change the default. Well, we'll leave it as sample video, but no, we won't. Sorry to waffle. So what we'll do now is we'll change that from sample video to be uberhelper.video URL. All right, good stuff. And there are a few properties that we probably want to set. Auto start. I mean, we could actually create this as a property of the component, but I think what we'll do is we will set it ourselves. Why is that not changing? Media auto start. Yes. Okay. And it's connected to our property. Right. So, in theory, let's put this on a screen. We're going to need, so let's add the Uber helper. Now, you're going to have to use your imagination quite wildly here. So imagine that this screen contains a complex or a number of menu items, a number of things that you just, you want to ensure that your users understand, and you're going to provide text. In fact, what we'll do, we'll add in another screen as well, just so that we can add in another version. So we've got two screens in our app. Let's add the Uber helper in again here. Okay, so we'll go back to the first screen. What we're going to do is we're going to add in a button or an icon. So let's find the question mark one, wherever it's gone. Keep your eyes open, tell me when. Help. Okay, so that's going to be our button. So imagine there's something on the screen and you are pretty sure that a subset of users are going to need some assistance. It could be complex, it could be how to complete a form, could be a specific data, a way of entering data. I don't know, you know better than I than what this is likely to need. When we click it, we want to be able to toggle, we want to make this component appear, and when we click the X button up here, we want the component to disappear. So the state, the visible state of this component needs to be controlled from two different places. And one way of approaching that is what we're going to walk through next. So we have our output property. Oh, let's go back into components on the wrong screen. So we've got our output property, okay, called helper visibility. What we're going to do when the user clicks the close button, we're going to create a variable. So up here, so we go on select. Okay. So on select, we're going to set a global variable. So global variable helper visibility. And we're going to set that to be false, because when we click the button, we're going to want to hide the dialog. And what we can do with our component, is instead of it being true, we can set it to be the global variable. Okay, so by default it's going to be false. Okay. Now, next thing we're going to do is go back into our screen, and on our screen, on our click button here, on our show it, instead of it saying false. We're going to reset Uber Helper 1, and hopefully that is going to work. Oh, nope, because I'd forgotten we need to, where is it? Just give me a second. Oh yeah, the visible property. So the visible property of this component, we now need to configure that or wire it up to be whatever the value of our output property was. Don't know that I'm explaining this incredibly well, but what we want to do is to wire up the visibility property to be whatever it states there. So let's try. It didn't do anything, did it? Okay, sorry for the slight pause there. I got myself in a little bit of a pickle. So how we manage this is we need to reset the component. We can use onReset. And what we'll do is when the onReset function is called, or event is called, we're going to set the global variable to be true, so the visibility. And this will make sense in a moment. Okay? So the visibility is currently wired up to a variable. I've just clicked on the variable name down here. Helper visibility is set to this variable called global or glow helper visibility. The X button here, when I click it, sets that variable to false. The onReset event of this component sets this back to true. And then when I go onto the screen, I reset the component. Okay, so that triggers it, that sets it to be true. So in theory, this should work. So we click our help button, and there we are in video mode. We can close it, we can control the visibility property or state from both locations. So let's configure our, let's wire this up so it actually provides some decent text. So helper title, so it currently says text, how to build great power apps. And the video, so let's pop in a URL, video URL. I had a URL somewhere. Give me a second and I will fetch that. Okay, so let's change that from text to an actual video URL. There we go, look at this. This is starting to take shape. Wonderful, so this is now wired up to be video mode, okay? So we can manage the state. Here's our complex form or some kind of thing. Maybe we just got some all-up help video that we want a user to be able to watch. They click this, they can watch the video, it plays, blah, blah, blah. Looks great, right? Okay, we'll use exactly the same control, the same component. This time we're going to change video mode to be false. So we should see, there we go, the size of the screen has changed straight away, size of the component, sorry. We're going to set the help intro text to be, let's use the same thing, how to build a great Canvas app. And then let's have the help text. I have some lorem ipsum pre-canned for us here. We'll copy this because I'm not going to type a load of stuff in. Okay, we'll preview, and we are still, slight failure. What did we do? We didn't change the video visibility property. Okay, so it's still set to true no matter what the case. So we need to do an if this then that. So if the Uber helper dot video mode, if it is true, if it's not true, sorry, then we want true or false. let's go back to the app. Oh, still not worked. Denied, my man. Okay, we're nearly there, everyone. Nearly there. I think I got that the wrong way. Let's go video mode, true. Video mode, false. Okay, so now the text is showing, the video's hidden. Put that to true. Right, so the component is working. So what's going on here on our screen? Video mode, whoops. Is true, let's set that to false. Okay, we're nearly there. Now you can see that it still says text, and that looks like we haven't wired the component up correctly. So the actual helper text, if we go to the text property, it is currently blank. Okay, that explains why. So let's put in Uber helper dot helper text. Go back to our screen and look at that. That's nearly fantastic. And I say nearly because you can see that much text does not sit well inside our component. So this is where we need to start thinking maybe we need to change the, maybe we need to change the height. And I'm not sure what I've done there, but I think I've wired up the component wrong still. So the helper text is the help text intro. Okay, so they're both wired up to the same property, which looks like a mistake on my behalf, as is usually the case. So the intro text. All right, so that's slightly better. Now, when we preview, you can see we've got like the text mode version of our Uber helper. So one of the things that this is, gives us and is good is the fact that we can resize it anyway. The thing that's good with this is that we have a single component that's performing multiple roles in our application. It can provide help to our users, which is the overall aim of it. It can do it in a text format. So if you've just got some basic instructions, maybe you're explaining what information you're expecting from the user in a form, or maybe it's something more complicated and therefore requires a video. You have, have both of these capabilities with a single component just by switching the mode. So I'm hoping that this video is useful for you. I'm hoping that it's maybe inspiring and getting you to think about how you could use components in a slightly more novel way. So yeah, thanks very much for your time.